Ken Stevens.
Tom Schneider, Board.
Joe Mosiero, outside auditor.
Lester Burt, outside auditor.
Terry Hamel, member of the board.
John Kara Smith, member of the board.
Jerry Brown, member of the board.
Mike Shanley, attorney.
Amy Tressetter. We are going to go right into the presentation of the annual audit. And for this part of the meeting, I'm going to turn it over to Tom, who is chairman of the audit committee.
Yes, so we held an audit committee, and I appreciate everybody adjusting their schedule because it was important that we got the audit committee done prior to the board meeting so that we can accept the audit report and make any adjustments to the financial statements there too. But overall, it was nothing of great consequence. We did have some discussions on one of the adjustments, and that one we can hold to the executive session. But otherwise, we have our, do I have a report? Okay. We have with us our representatives from Bowers and Company, partner and audit managers, who work very diligently. I do want to indicate that we will hold an executive session at the end of their presentation for purposes of any discussion that our external auditors would like to have with the board. I can tell you, I heard from Joe before because last year was really Joe's diligent communication that led the governance committee to expand the scope of their review to include what he brought forth as cultural challenges within the office. So greatly appreciate his diligence and reporting upward any concerns that they have. And since we didn't hear any this year, much more comfortable.
Ready for the report?
Great.
Okay, so you've got this in front of you. Audit committee meeting, audit report. I'll get first page auditor communication, and I will go through this rather quickly, but stop me whenever you have a question. The page I'm going to start with is called communication with those charged with governance. The required communication on our part, you have the audit yielded an unmodified opinion, or an opinion with that basically states the financial statements are not materially misstated. So the records are in fairly good shape. The most important accounting policies you have, we don't have any unusual accounting policies. We would have to note that to you if there were any, but typical accounting policies here. Your most important disclosures as we see them relate to your pension system and healthcare liability. We'll point those out in the audit, but those are some of your larger liabilities, so we feel those are the most important disclosures. We turn the page. Management representation. You already know this, but just as a reminder, it's important that we remind you that it is management, meaning the organization here, responsibility to produce financial statements that are free of error or misstatement. It's your responsibility to detect fraud. Although we have systems in place during the audit that addresses some of these items, that is not our role, and we had no significant findings during our audit, which is a very important outcome. The next page, significant estimates. What is important with estimates, the financial statements, again, as you understand, are not always precise. There's some subjectivity involved in them. There's estimates that have to go into the numbers because not every transaction is fully completed as we do the financial statements, so we need to point those out to you so you understand what's behind them. Two of the larger estimates would be the post-employment health insurance liability, which is essentially an actuarial calculation. And the expense on the books is about $147,000 this year. And then depreciation expense, which again is fairly straightforward. It's just how you amortize your fixed assets over time.
Just when you talk about something like the post-employment health care liability, you're projecting future liability as stream of cash flows and discounting it back to the present value of what that liability would be. I only say that because the discount rate changes as interest rates move. Interest rates are going up, and that interest rate movement will affect the estimate going forward more probably in the next fiscal year than this one.
Correct.
Yeah, and you might see next year is the year you have to get another actuary report, so you could see the jump from that.
Okay, next page, the adjustments report.
And rising rates decrease the liability.
Right. What's important, again, to understand as a board are the condition of the records as we start to audit them and how the numbers change during the completion of our audit. So you see we started with pre-audited income of $154,000, a couple minor adjustments, the largest being depreciation expense. That's common every year. We come in and we provide the depreciation number, and that gets recorded. So that's a non-cash item. And then the second item, we talked about, Lester, I'll let you get into a little bit. There's an adjustment for the inland port. Monies that were expended and put on the balance sheet as the project was ongoing, that at this point in time, there's some uncertainty as to, is it really an asset? And what's collectible and what is a future benefit here. So we made an adjustment to reduce that.
Yep, so overall, you guys still have $760,000 in unreimbursed costs that you guys incurred through this whole entire project that Bill's working on getting reimbursed from the state. So currently that piece was moved from fixed assets to receivables, and then the difference between that and what was accumulated in fixed assets was expensed. So that came out to be about $345,000.
And that does run through the income statement rather than adjustments retained.
Yes, yes. And it'll be below the line, so when you look at the financial
Right,
operating
okay.
results,
Yep.
and down below.
So final net loss is 1.2 million.
You know, it's always that what we're reporting during the year, not including depreciation expense, makes more sense to us because it's really showing the results of operations. The fixed assets here are different than anywhere else because the fixed assets, some of them were acquired, but a lot of them were part of the state asset that became the port. And so it is depreciated, and that depreciation allows us to reinvest, but there's no cash associated with that depreciation. Therefore, the financial statements, absent them, better reflect our operations, but generally accepted accounting principles, or in this case, governmental version of them, of course, it insists that the expenses recognized.
Point out one of the major transactions this year was the sale of the Cayuga Street property. I'll let Lester walk through the numbers on that.
Yep, so what happened when you guys sold the property, you received $650,000. You had a carrying cost of $361,000 in the books. You have a total gain from the sale of $288,000. One of the complications with the sale was that it was bonded. So the bonding agreement stated that you're on the hook for interest through the maturity, and then you take the present value of that. So if you sold the property, you had to redeem the present value of the interest that was due over the next 15 years.
It essentially serves as a prepayment penalty. And while sometimes those are negotiable, the prepayment penalty really reflects that, hey, when we originated this, we incurred a lot of costs of origination and bonding is costly. And so those costs are captured in the loan, and the loan isn't paid, we still need to capture, or when the loan is paid off early, we still need to capture the expense we've incurred. I support prepayment. General principle.
Is that a
Most
comment,
people
is
like
that
it.
a
So
comment
so
in
do
the
all the
bonding of
bondholders.
this amount? Is that a common,
Not very.
okay,
Yeah. Having that as a
Wasn't
covenant,
unusual.
having that as a covenant within, the documents of a bond or a loan, a commercial loan,
Right.
a large commercial loan. There are a lot of costs that go into originating, and all of a sudden you're taken out of it. You want to recapture some of that cost of the origination.
okay.
That's the terminology we use.
Thank you.
Also, at the time property was purchased, the ones who owned it, that's how they wanted to do it, the one that was through the bonding.
Yeah, well, at the time, the bonding mechanism was utilized for reasons for working with the
That transaction netted on a cash basis about $470,000. You take your sale price minus that prepayment penalty or interest, and that would be the cash recognized by the organization. Get into the financial statements, I'll turn it over to Lester, he'll walk through the balance sheet.
All right, usually start with my explanation of the balance sheet. Prior years where you started the year, what you guys had in assets, and you had the income statement of your operations. So then the current year, what you currently have, a snapshot at the end of your fiscal year. So overall, it was a challenging year, but from an asset perspective, you guys kind of held. You're down 8% in total assets. That was largely due to the property coming off the books from the sale of Cayuga Street and current year $1 million in depreciation. For liquid assets, if you're looking at total current assets, you're actually up 52%. And the main reason for that being is you have grant receivable that'll come in after year end for $318,000. Then you also have the cost that's trying to be reimbursed, the unreimbursed funds from the New York Inland Port projects. Another item to note, you can see is cash is down $400,000, and that's just due to some spending in the current year. All right, on the next page, just a couple items to note. You can see your current liabilities stayed the same. Your total liabilities decreased 7%. That was mainly due to paying off the bonding liability you guys had on the books for $300,000. Then also note the duty in New York State stayed the same as last year, as you guys asked for relief and were granted during the current year. So the $50,000 payment was not made during the current year. Any questions on any of the balance sheet?
One of the things that any lending or analyzing is that he would look at is where a current asset relative to current liabilities, it's called your current ratio. You're carrying 2.3 million in current assets against 220,000 in current liabilities, which is a very strong place for the balance sheet to be.
All right, flipping the next page, income statement. You can see here, look at the top line numbers, your operating revenue was down 25%. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into this. I mean, the price of fuel was low, which makes trucking a more viable option for your competition. We had a vendor lose the salt contract, so that went away.
We know that we had a lot of customer disruption during the leadership change period, and that's being rebuilt, but that rebuild of relationship will derive revenue more likely in upcoming fiscal year. One ended March 31st, 18.
You can see at the same time, with a flux in your revenue, operating expenses only decreased 7%. That was largely due to your variable costs, your hourly hours and wages are all hourly, so they decreased with your revenue. And that's partially offset with some one-time cost increase, but it should stabilize going forward next period. So you also get down to about $1 million loss from operating. You can see here that's almost hand in hand with depreciation and your healthcare expense, so overall net positive from operations even in a down year, so you're still cash flow. The last statement, discuss this, probably your most important statement. So statement of cash flows, this kind of shows the money generated from operations and what you spent outside of your operating activities. So over the current year, you have a decrease in revenue, which is you have a lot of grants and other receivables at the end of the year, so that decreased the cash you received. Now your payment suppliers and employees came down to a negative $267,000 for the year. And that was largely due to some increased professional fees, which were a one-time, 1 year type cost. That'll go back to normal next year. The next section, net cash used in capital and financing activities. Ultimately, you spent $147,000, and that was a combination of some equipment purchases and paying down long-term debt and some of the cash received from the sale of Cavey Street. Then you had, last section just had a little bit of interest on your certificates of deposits, which ultimately led you to a decrease in cash equivalents of $400,000 for the year. But as you can see, your receivables are up high, so shortly after year end, it's gonna flip back up and be comparable to the cash you had on hand at the end of 17. And that was it for our first portion. If you guys have any questions.
Seeing that there are no questions, can I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss?
I think first, though, just as a function, the audit committee recommended approval of the audit, external audit report that should be ratified by the board, so if I can put that in
Yes.
form of a motion. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now, may I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss further?
So moved.
Second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in executive session. That's that. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
I move we resume regular session.
Who gets credit?
I move we resume regular, I second.
Terry and John.
Whatever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will go into motion 06221802 to approve the minutes.
So moved.
5/7/2018 Exhibit A.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I have one little thing because I'm proofreader.
Good week.
I can find it now. I see it. And I can't find it.
What happens when you read it online or another
Yeah.
way, or make a notation, and then you have the new package.
You should print out a page and circle.
No. There was a word that didn't need to be there, so. I don't know. Here it went.
Was it one of the motions?
Yes, it was. Here it is, motion 5071807. It says, Mr. Hamel made a motion to request that the governor and legislator to take into consideration, just take the two out of there.
Yep.
And it's, other than that, I didn't have anything. Anyone else? Okay. Changes, 2 minutes. Is everyone in
It should be
favor?
noted that our assemblyman did bring forward some legislation to the House Ways and Means Committee, where it struggled for Democratic support.
Yes, we appreciate that effort by the assemblyman.
We got a lot done.
So all in favor of the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Administrative operational reports, Exhibit B.
Okay, here. Okay. Just very briefly, we have basically updated the policy book, which will be coming to the board shortly. We did schedule customer service training. As you know, one of the most important things we have here, the only important thing we have here is customers. And I wanted to get everybody on track with providing the best service we could. We had, on the 21st, we had our HR, or actually our paychecks, as part of their free services, our HR portion is to provide trainings. Meg, who does the payroll, found that they were able to supply us with customer service training, so everybody at the department went through customer service training. So that we can better take care of our customers in an efficient and friendly manner. And I just gave you an agenda of all the topics they went over. So we call this an in-service training. Next is Jerry has, as chairman of the Planning Development Committee, came to report. He took a long tour. We had a spreadsheet provided of facilities that needed repaired. So I thought I'd turn it over to Jerry right at this point and let him go ahead.
Well, it was good for Bill to invite me in on that Friday before last, was it? The 8th, I think something around that. To my amazement, as we walked around, I couldn't believe some of the neglect that we had here in our port. Maintenance, repairs, of course, it takes funding to take care of all that. And to get with the facility replacement needs, the dome, number one, yes, it seriously needs repair work. As Bill has indicated up there, it's a lot of money. I can't remember if you told me how we were gonna.
Well,
Across that
on,
fund.
right now, we have in one CD, we have over $120,000. And we're holding that in reserve because we have a two-stage plan. Number one, Dome 1 was part of a recently submitted last month, we call PFRAP grant. And as I had reported to the board last month, we were going to basically take that, deconstruct the roof off it, create a crane tower for additional storage for Purdue, so we could do larger ships here. If we don't receive the PFRAP grant, then we're going to have to go to bid on repair of the dome roof. And we have the reserve money in that CD, then we would, Debbie would not be carrying it over. We'd bring that into capital cash for a while and then go to bid. So we have a plan for Dome 1, other than just letting it go to pieces right now.
Then domes 3 and 4, yes, they need serious repair work, but it's, Bill's explained on the sheet, we can probably delay it through repairs, temporary repairs.
We have a local contractor who's got a, I think, pretty genius idea, is they produce a new type of, you remember the old roll roofing years and years ago? Well, they've upgraded. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, we were talking about
Yes.
that, yeah, when you were here. And instead of trying to reshingle it all, we would take sections out, and it has like a super adhesive on one side, and we'd adhere it right to the sections. We could cut it and bring it in. So where we have the most damage, we would do repairs. Now, is that gonna be long-term? No, but we need in our next budget to start building up capital reserves for maintenance, and that should be one of them. But that will buy us time as we move forward, so we can stash enough money aside to be able to do the major repairs.
The only trouble with the shiplap is over time and heat, there's a tendency to stretch. So we have to be careful in that applying that material.
I thought maybe we would do like one repair, the worst one, see how that time out, and then if it worked, we'd go to the next.
The next one was the trunk scale. If you look at some of this handle sheet, you'll see where it's pretty well pitted. The scale is the concrete that's breaking down through time.
Yeah.
And that'll probably be, if we get money, a fairly reasonable replacement and fix.
And just to remind you, that scale, we have to have that repair done prior to recertification this fall of the scale. Because the scale is considered to be in a how do I want to put this, a reduced operational, they won't
Capacity, yeah.
they won't go ahead and recertify. So we do have a plan for that. We basically are looking at, instead of putting like a steel on it, we were talking about, that we're cutting out the holes and the bad parts, and then they have this concrete and adhesive, which they repair road and bridges with, and applying that. That will last 4 to 6 years, that will give us enough time to get a long-term solution.
What's it have, a fiber component in it,
Yes.
grout with fiber?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was pretty good.
pretty hard stuff.
Yeah.
And let's see, our warehouse over at doors, I didn't appear. I apparently wasn't aware that those doors need a lot of replacement.
Yeah.
They've been banged up pretty good, so the tracks are out of line. There's rust here and there, and it's gonna be, a problem if we don't take care of it soon. Funding is another issue.
that? Did we get a copy of that report?
Yeah.
Do you have another copy, so Terry?
Did you get one, Terry?
I did.
And did
Here, take mine.
Just take it.
Yes.
Well, that's what the committee's gonna do.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Jerry wanted,
Yeah, that's right.
this was kinda
Subject
like,
matter beyond my expertise.
yeah, Jerry wanted to get by and get a handle on all this, what we're looking at.
What we're looking at.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
I think what we need is maintenance operating budget.
Yeah.
that-
Something we can long-term
Yes.
add to, little by
Because this is
little
ongoing,
to.
this is always going to be ongoing.
Yes.
We have to maintain what we have, not only for operation of this port and the safety of the
As
people who
opposed to
work
looking
here,
like an exception.
but what people see when they come here as customers.
I'm glad you said that. Did you see where we started in the front already?
Yes.
The dock, the front dock, that has been peeling and stained for years and years and years. You'll see the all-new blue with the, in-house, we're now painting that ourselves. We can't paint the whole building, but we're trying to take pieces we can do and make improvements.
So I'm assuming some are need to be done right away. But that's going on with Amy's suggested, is obviously what we need to prioritize too.
Well, when Jerry has his committee meeting, I'll go over with him and I'll say,
Okay.
you know, there are certain things under lease and contractual obligations, like the grain doors, we need to replace those because they store grain. We have to have those.
Yeah.
There are other things that we can maybe push down the road, some things we need to do for health and safety,
Right.
so, you know.
Even some of our exterior man doors are.
Let's don't push that to the bottom.
Stop.
There should be a running list that goes from year to year to year with some else.
As we collect something
That's it.
and add to the repairs.
Yeah.
And also have that always planned year by year by year.
Yeah.
You might have to plan a couple of years.
That's something we have to work on, Terry.
Capital
is
project.
to go through this thing and prioritize it.
Yes.
Well, that's a good start. This could be something that you can build on and every year modify it, improve it.
Well, that was my whole idea of putting this together and giving it to Jerry and write down, is that we need to start, as you said, you need to have a list and prioritize a list. Some are reoccurrings, and some are emergencies. I mean,
Yeah.
downstairs, the furnace, had to put a furnace in, but that furnace, to be honest with you, should have been prioritized, should have been on a list 10, 12 years ago.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
and we should have gone to it with we had to replace that in winter time.
Mhm.
And I wanted to do more than just replace the furnace. I wanted to reactivate some of the heating lines to take, as long as we're burning the gas, to take the heat load off from up here. Because the system we have on top right now, you're complaining about the air conditioning, guess what? It's a good complaint, because we live with this. It's got to eventually, I didn't wanna throw you for a loop, Jerry, but that's gotta be replaced too. That's gotta, because the bottom line is, that was replaced, what, in the 90s?
No, that was replaced in the,
When was that put up?
when this was all redone, that was done.
When was that?
So that was in 2005, 6.
2005, 6.
6, so
It's never worked correctly. It's like, it was a dinosaur when it came up. I've gotta find solutions to this stuff to continue, so, but,
Emergencies are
Let's keep moving.
emergencies,
Yeah.
yes.
okay, we won't depress you on Friday.
well, that north end pavement, if you
Yeah.
look at the sheets, oh my
Yeah.
God, it looks like it's ready to fall apart back there. Whether we can carry weight back there for any length of time. I doubt it.
Well, as we progress with, trucks going over, it's gonna get worse. That's
Yeah.
something I'd like to address next year. I'd like to have, actually, as I explained to you, we may not have to do the whole back, but do like a 30-foot strip for the trucks, so they don't get, you know, their shocks have to be replaced every time they come here. And that would start us in a system where we could do one side, then later, and another side the other, and have it done.
Is there any way we can winterize those cracks that are in the pavement to reduce the damage from
The only
coming winter?
only thing you can do is put oil
Caulk
in.
it or?
Well, they,
oil
you
it?
know, yeah, the hot oil, yeah, like you do
Yes.
on roads. Right now, it's gone so far, I don't think we could ever, if the holes have opened up, we'd actually have to cut them out and then fill them.
So there's no sense in trying to protect it through.
Later this year, I've talked to the county, we can purchase, their batch mix, if we go pick it up, we have a dump truck. Pardon me, I was thinking about getting a few ton and starting to, all these holes, starting to patch holes. It's not gonna be long-term, but it's gonna decrease the amount of the spread this winter of the potholes. Yeah, so that's like in 3 meetings from now, I'll be talking about that, but that's gotta be done too, because as you all know, in the city of Oswego, you let a little pothole start and you don't fill it in, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger,
Yeah.
so.
Terrible, terrible.
Well,
Let's see, our man doors are also in very bad shape, very bad.
Don't we allow women to use those doors?
Person's doors.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there.
At some point,
That's true.
Personnel doors,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've got a catch basin that's, seems to need repair, I've seen it, it's one of the lowest price items we have, isn't
Yeah.
it, for repair work?
Yeah.
Is
I
it
don't know
something we can take care of for the winter, or?
Yeah, well, when you meet again, I was gonna give you a priority what I thought we needed to do.
Yeah, okay, that'd
But,
be good.
you know, did I even take a picture of it? Maybe, no, I didn't take a picture. It's leaking water, it feeds a couple of our, fire hydrants in the back. You can't see it on this, I didn't take a picture, but it can be quite quickly and quite inexpensively. It's been something that's been aggravating me for the past 3 years. I've been saying something to, well, my predecessor about it, and it's one of those things, as soon as I get the nod from Debbie, because we are spending some money on things, is get that thing repaired, but the scale is the most important thing before fall, that's gotta be repaired, because it's one of our scales.
Another item was our, I don't see it on our list here, the bumpers. Oh, yeah, there it is, warehouse dock bumpers. Some of them are missing, quite a few of them, to be exact.
you're going to meet again. Your
Yes,
committee is going to meet again and go over this with Bill,
Bill,
get a list of priorities, and then we will, some of these things just have to be taken care of. There's no choice. These things have to be done, and I appreciate you coming over and looking at all this and getting pictures of it so that we have a good idea with these pictures of what we really need to be done. I was on the West Pier yesterday, and there's some issues over there too,
Yeah.
near the water and, you know.
Those we can't, it's still under the FEMA restoration.
Okay,
Yeah, and at some point in time, in a couple, 3 weeks, I need to talk to probably the executive committee on the FEMA repairs.
okay, all right,
Because that's gonna be a critical issue here in about a month.
thank you.
so in the meantime, we'll get together and try to set up a meeting date with the board or the
That's
planning.
expensive.
And I've got, by the way, the air
Do you
conditioner
have
downstairs
any
that
idea
went,
why that's?
I said need to replace it, went.
Anything
I
that
had
you
replaced
got that would
Oh.
indicate that.
I can see.
So, but here's what it is that if the unit is fed from the roof,
You can
that
figure it
unit's
out.
not gonna last very much longer.
It's for
So I already got a quote on a wall unit to replace it. So now we can put it in the folder when we get, okay, what's the cost analysis? like the furnace,
That's right.
replace it with another unit,
From the emergency
new, that's,
situation.
we don't have to worry about. So,
Okay.
I'm trying to make those options as we go along, I mean, as fast as I can, but, you know, things break, so.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you for that.
But there's an idea of what we're facing as
Yes.
far as our repair and maintenance.
Thanks for all the good news.
Yes.
Just out of
Thank you.
curiosity.
Thank you.
But I was really shocked when I
Well,
started looking
I
at
think
some of
we're
this
shocked.
stuff, especially in certain buildings,
Doesn't.
electrical and some of the overhead door areas and things.
We got a quote for a little over 8,000 to replace all of them.
Okay.
Okay, Bill.
Okay, I'll just make this really brief here. The Deepwater issue, I had a conference call with Purdue and NOAA. It was very positive. I would like to note that Congressman Catco is helping us on this issue. Right now, we're talking about a guarantee of water level and some type of legal guarantee that we can provide without disadvantaging the port. Export scales, they are finished on site. The USDA was here on June 4th and 5th. We had a demo and test of them. They're perfectly fine with them. They certified them. We're done. We're ready. Our first ship is either going to be July 20th or August 20th, and it's not going to be a Laker. It's going to be a 20 to 21,000 metric ton ship. So I'm talking to Dennis and Purdue. We're putting together a site plan to be able to do that. So you're all invited down to take a shift, if you will, and watch it being loaded. So let me say that I did ask. Okay.
What is that?
It's going to be either July 20th or August 20th.
You can send out an email.
Yeah, send an email.
It's called a nomination. They're trying to get a nomination for a ship, which means they're trying to buy a ship for that time. I issued.
General Jubilation shows up, you better have the ranks in order.
Don't forget that.
We'll have a half for you, Captain. I mean, Colonel. General. I issued an RFQ for insurance brokerage services.
Good.
It has been responded to by at least a dozen already. An RFQ is different than RFP. RFQ is request for qualifications. And how this typically will work is that I will receive all these. It's based on a rating scale, and then I'll bring the rating scale to, I can't remember which committee. We'll make a recommendation, it'll come to the board.
Okay.
How many, put out a request, how many companies we could target to get, good sample size?
Well, we always want 3 because that's state law, but we have at least 4 to 6 right now. We have 2 locals that have
Good.
put in, who will be submitting for us. So, and by the way, I basically took state procurement guidelines and just did the rating scale. Example, cost is only 15%, 25% is kind of past experience in the area. So it's not, we're looking for the cheapest price, we're looking for the best service, quality broker service, to provide a service to the port.
Just pointed in disclosure on potential conflict of interest in case one of those local agents is the Fitzgibbons agency. Pathfinder Bank owns 51% of the Fitzgibbons agency, and that should be noted. And I would need to be recused from all
Thank you.
discourse on that topic.
Then I'll throw it to the governance committee then.
Yeah.
So they normally would go to you, so
Yeah.
I'll recommend to the governance
Yeah.
committee.
Thank you.
Dr. Smith.
Okay.
Okay, we held a very good joint meeting with Crop Production Services Purdue. This is all about their desire of crop production to double their storage on site and their business. And Purdue's wanting to double their business on site. So we don't have enough room for both, so what we're gonna do is we're applying for a United States Department of Transportation bill grant. I'm working very diligently with CNS engineers, and both Crop Production Services and Purdue are on the table with us and willing to make commitments. So it's positive going forward. There's no guarantee in grants, there's no guarantee, but we're at the table talking and moving forward. I replaced the air conditioner downstairs, Jerry. Just thought I'd be disclosed that, okay? It was gone.
Do anything with the current, in
That was number 13 on your list, I think.
fixtures or anything like that?
No, no.
You just leave it alone and just put the.
Well,
new unit
you're
on?
talking about, no, I had to replace, the coil was only $2,100 in
okay.
spoil. So I took the lesser of two evils.
Number
We may
12.
buy 3 to 4 years with that, maybe. Let's just hope. But if we don't, I have the option of, because this place is so cut up, the on-unit, top unit feeds and cools and heats only the scales office, that one room, about the size of this office. So it's just stupid, I think, just to have a top unit do it. So what I did is I priced out a wall unit that is highly efficient, and that's gonna cost us around $8. So that's already, if that goes, because if it goes, the compressor system goes, then we don't spend any more money. We go with a wall unit, which
Sure.
is cheaper
Right.
and actually more efficient. We cut our costs 50% on that operation. So, you'll notice this is where we have a new thing called sprucing up the port. You notice as you drove in, all the grass was neatly manicured, cut. Things are going along quite finely. I hired 2 summer employees. They're mowing, brushing, and the city won't be attacking us on grass any longer, as they have in the past, citing me, you don't mow your grass. We didn't have the staff last year. Well, we put a couple kids to work for summer. You know, first summer job, they're doing a great job. We're getting everything done, mowing, painting. You see the paint in the front. You haven't seen that we've started the portico as you come in. That started on the inside, being scraped and painted. Again, we want to put a good image of the port out there, and we can't do everything, but we're trying to do as much as we can. I attended the annual Central New York International Business Association meeting with Ken last month. Ken, did you want to say anything?
We made some contacts. I think it's going to be beneficial to the port. So.
Thanks for going.
Well, Southerners?
Yeah, with a lot of Southerners. Yeah.
A lot of bankers, actually.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
No, nothing.
That may or may not be helpful to us in
They
business.
swim in every water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a Harbor Fest reception, or what I would like to call Port Day. I talked over with Patty. I talked to you about it, Amy. We have always had, let me digress. I forgot, but the Harbor Fest now has started to consolidate in the last month. So they're not going to do a water show. But we already paid them the money. We support Harbor Fest each and every year. Is we're now going to be the sponsor of the East Park park. So our sponsorship will be for that park. We will have the placards up, the signs up, and Patty came up with this wonderful idea. I think it's a good idea, but the board will make the decision. We usually have something down here. However, seeing the port is going to have the East Park, and in the past, we've had, I think, companies have events there. We would like to propose to you at the East Park, one of those days, we have
afternoon.
an invited port event right there at their private area. We can cater in items for it. We can invite the port customers and guests, and of course the board would sponsor it. And if people still wanted to come down and see the fireworks, board members or invited guests, they can. We're gonna have security on here anyway. but instead of concentrate it down here, put it up in East Park, which is our sponsor area.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
Do it right.
You'll still be able to come here for the fireworks.
Yes,
I
there
will,
always will be guards here. We would want a list of who's coming in. It will be open anyway because we have the fireworks barge down here and we have security on site, so that wouldn't be an issue.
okay.
So we presented to you, Patty's worked up some numbers right here. If you want to assign it to a committee or whatever, it's fine, but what do you think?
I think that we can go ahead with this. I don't think we need to be all official about it. If Patty wants to.
Yep, I'll take
Okay.
care of it.
I'm gonna probably be out of town for Harbor Fest, so I won't be there.
Terry, does anything conflict with Jacob's standards on something like that?
I don't think so.
Well, we're
The-
calling a port day.
The sorry, East Park, the area that we cordoned off, is there for the sponsors.
Yeah.
But we've already paid for that area, to
Right.
sponsor the
Might
park,
as
so
well.
it's not an additional cost. The only thing would be tables and chairs, which we would be renting anyhow.
Okay.
We don't have to rent a tent because the tent comes with it also.
Okay, you can have
So
some
it's actually-
informational
The-
brochures and everything that, so
Yep.
people can learn about the
Right.
history of the port.
And there'll be music, the jazz and
Okay.
blues that they have in the park anyhow, so that'll be
We
going on.
have boards up on
Our signs.
our signs, but we also have pictures of ships and what we do and we'll put together boards on things. So when you come in, it's you'll see, what we do, how we do it, and
Okay, that sounds good. And Patty, you can just send out emails
I will.
and,
Just
let us
towards-
know what's going on and,
Just towards Ken's question, the sponsorship of Harbor Fest is part of, the mandate of stimulating local
Yes.
activity. And then when you hold events associated with that, as part of that sponsorship, you're bringing, customers, community members, leadership in the community to you in order to, partner with them and
Advocate.
strengthen advocacy.
I think the issue, I think the most supportive in issue or point is, we're not using state money,
right.
which has been allocated to function as a port, to do something else. We're not state funded, we make our own revenue. So this is
well, the
part
Port of
business.
Albany, the Port of Ogden does port days. And we're gonna have a huge volume of people, and we use it as an educational outreach and
Coach
customer.
Ken came in on horseback.
With a sword.
Of course, yeah.
And with a flag.
You want the stars and bars?
I thought we get shot if I did the stars and bars.
Well, I mean, some appropriate flag.
We have a Port of Oswego flag you can come in on.
No, I'd rather have good old American glory.
There you go.
Well, Patty's gonna keep us informed and updated on what she's doing. And let's keep moving, go on to the
I would
administrative.
say if you were using any kind of state allocated funds to support this project, you could probably run into some problems, but we're not.
Thanks, Terry.
Just ordinary.
All right, and let me then jump in on the financials or into administrative financial reports. We had disclosure in there for the start of the new year, but we started the meeting with, a full audit report relative to fiscal year end March 31st. Everything that I've seen in the first couple of months is consistent with trend forward. None of it very impressive in my mind. The payables are very strong. Any receivables that are aged are pretty small. So I would just submit that we submit those reports and then we have any questions.
Okay, would you like to make a motion to accept the primary
I would.
financial report? Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Anybody want to ask any questions about these, Exhibit C1 and Exhibit C, well, let's do Exhibit C1. Give everybody a little time. Okay, all in favor of accepting primary financial report Exhibit C1, which is motion 06-22-1803.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
I would motion 0622-1804 to accept subsidiary financial reports.
Second?
Exhibit C2.
Second.
Anyone have any questions on C2? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Chairperson's report. I went to the lighthouse dedication yesterday, which was very nice. Other than that, I don't really have too much. We have some communications we're going to discuss in executive session. So, we spoke last week, and basically I haven't got any updates for you since we got together last week, so. Committee reports. The executive committee has no report.
The audit committee reported.
Yes. Governance, John,
In executive session, we'll have a short report.
thank you. And Jerry, you already reported
Yes.
to us, thank you. Michael, do you have anything?
Not for the regular meeting, but we discuss what we're going to discuss
Okay.
in executive session.
I have no old business. And new business, we pretty much discussed anything new that Bill brought forward. Motion 06-22-18 to move into executive session to discuss current lease negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are now in executive session. Have a motion to come out of executive
Motion
session.
to resume regular session.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Who made the motion to?
Are we all in favor to adjourn?
Yes.
All right, who seconded?